Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Dawn Melanie. Today I'll be discussing managing self with multiple sclerosis. Myself, I was diagnosed with relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis on March 11th, 1999, exactly 6 months after the onset of my first MS symptoms on September 11th, 1998. Those symptoms included impairment of speech. I stuttered. I had slurred speech. My right eye would lose focus, and I would have difficulty seeing things with my right eye. Also, on the right side of my body, I had intentional tremors of my hands and legs. My hands would shake uncontrollably, and my legs, well, my right leg would get the old MS shaky leg, which a lot of you are familiar with. My tongue would also be numb, thus the stuttering and the slurred speech. Now, these things happened in episodes. I call them episodes because it lasted between 5 to 10 seconds at a time, usually brought on by, I want to say, excitement or, I guess, an increased level of stress. The phone may ring, and I would try to answer, and I would start to stutter, like, hello. I just couldn't get my tongue to form the words correctly. If I was walking and maybe someone asked me a question, my body would literally lock up, and I couldn't take a step. Kind of embarrassing, but it's one of those MS things. Before diagnosis, I was on short-term disability until we could kind of figure out what was going on with me. During this time, I guess the most critical thing was my personal efforts to document what I was going through and to give this information to my general practitioner and then to my neurologist to figure out what was going on. Unfortunately, my neurologist thought I was being a little pushy when I submitted the information to him, even though I had taken a MRI and a lumbar puncture or spinal tap, both indicating signs of MS. He was reluctant to diagnose me as such. Didn't quite understand this, but I later took his advice and found someone I was comfortable with in the area, another neurologist, to kind of start the whole process over again. The second neurologist that I went to, he insisted that I go through the battery of tests again, including MRI, spinal tap, also some additional tests that I hadn't yet performed, the visual evoke study, and I don't know, probably something else. Anyway, I'll never forget he called me. Actually, my general practitioner called me and said, "We have a diagnosis, it's MS." I said, "Wow." She goes, "Well, you don't have a brain tumor." I said, okay. Um, I just want to say, ever since that phone call, I've always been appreciative that I have MS. It could be worse. Um, I know there's no cure currently, but treatments are available. And from the time in those past 19 years, the advancements have been tremendous as far as our treatments available to us and the easyability to attain those. Some of this information that I had given to my doctors was the recordings of the episodes that I had, those that occurred several times a day, over hundreds of times a day, 5 to 10 seconds. Okay, I admit at first I was a little embarrassed to give this information to the doctors, that I was having so much difficulty with basic daily tasks, such as speaking and writing and walking. But I guess after diagnosis, I did go back to work, as I had shortly, therefore after that, shortly after diagnosis, I started at one of the disease modifying drugs, and I went back to work, and again, I was happy to know that I was addressing the issue, but I was masking how it was really affecting me. My one of the tasks I had to do at work was write and talk, answer phone calls, talk to clients, interview clients, and participate and engage in meetings. One thing I did was my right hand, again, the intentional tremors were still occurring. And one thing I did was I learned to use my left hand to write. Although I'm not ambidextrous, I behaved as if I was. I would intentionally sit on my right hand so no one would see it shake, and I would take notes with my left hand. The penmanship wasn't the best, but it was better than letting it be seen that I was having difficulties. Also, sometimes I would get a phone call from a client, and I'd purposely not answer the phone so that I could regroup myself and not stutter and shake, and call them back when I was ready to speak clearly. I more or less continued this behavior throughout. I more or less continued this type of behavior for the next 3 or 4 years of my career. About 6 months after diagnosis, when I went back to work, I got a promotion, and the people in the new group, I didn't tell them I had MS, but it sort of came out when they noticed that I was tired, oftentimes in the afternoon, and I wouldn't go to lunches, the free lunches they would have, because it was hot, and I was like, I'd rather go to the garage and sit in my car and take a nap. It seemed a little unsocial, but I was trying to take care of my body while still performing my work. One particular incident that I guess I bumped heads with the director was we were working on the 10K until 3 o'clock in the morning, and he says, "I'll see you guys tomorrow morning," which was actually later in the morning. And I said, "No, Michael, I'll see you guys sometime in the afternoon." I had been up 18 hours, and my anti-fatigue medicine had long worn off, so I was already pushing myself further than I should have. I was very, very, very tired, very fatigued. That was one of the first times I realized that, okay, I really do have to stand up for myself, or I'll just get run over. I remember shortly after that, I actually wrote a letter to HR explaining my situation, telling them that I do have MS, telling them that I do take medication for my fatigue, and I try to work with the situation by taking my own personal time, such as lunchtime, to recharge my batteries, as we'd say. As weird as it may seem, I was quite happy to depart ways or go separate ways from that company and start working as a consultant for a different company. As a consultant, I was able to, I don't want to say set my own hours, but the client had a better understanding of flex time and didn't look at it as a negative if we worked late and I came in the next day a little late, not at 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe by 11 o'clock in the morning. That was quite understandable, as I was very upfront from the start to tell them about my situation, and they had no problem with it. Oftentimes I would go out of town, out of the country, different states, and again, they were very cooperative to allow me to get the rest that I felt that I needed to perform well. Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, where my parents still resided, and I lost contact with them within 3 days. Pardon me, not even 3 days. Within, I'd say, 36 hours, I had lost all feeling on the front side of my body and the bottoms of my feet. I couldn't feel my hands, and when I cut myself, I couldn't even feel it. Needless to say, this is when I guess I lost my job, or should I say, Federal Medical Leave Act ended, and because I wasn't at work for so long, I no longer had a full-time job. A little disheartening, but I said, okay, what can I do to keep my sanity? I said, okay, MS is doing what it wants to do. I am going to do what I want to do. And so what I wanted to do was to get back to my competing, my bodybuilding, figure competing competitions. Seems a little weird considering I have MS, but, well, I had more time to spend in the gym, and I wasn't as rushed, so I work out on my own time, similar to what I do today. It'll be hours, but I guess what some people could probably knock out in an hour, it takes me maybe 2 to 3 hours. But it's okay because it's actually time where I'm relaxed, and it's fulfilling. My stress level is low, and low stress levels mean less chance of experiencing an exacerbation or a flare-up. So, what does this mean? I'm going to start competing again. Well, I remember getting the phone call saying, return your laptop, return your card key, return your office keys. You no longer work here. I said, okay. I did that, and that evening I got on the internet, and I found the very next show competition that was available in the state. I entered the show, which was probably 3.5 weeks out, and I entered. My mom, my dad, we all went to the show, and I won. I won first place in overall, and it was kind of a take that MS. It was fun. I then went on to compete in a national show in Vegas. Yeah, in Vegas later that year, 2006. That was a lot of fun. Again, here I was with MS doing something that I wanted, because I figured if MS can do what it wants, why not me do something that I want? Also gave me an opportunity to I don't want to say control it, but to keep it at bay, keeping it the harmful, stressful triggers at bay by engaging in an activity that was relaxing to me. Okay, so I'm back on the competition scene in full force as I'm not working, and I almost looked at competition in MS as synonymous in my world, in my existence. When I say synonymous, I mean I had to do with planning. I had to plan how I was going to work out, what muscle groups I was going to work out based upon the previous injections that I had. If I was injecting my shoulder, well, I guess I shouldn't probably work shoulders that day or the next day. So I have to have my rotations revolve around my MS injections. My eating, I had to make sure I had healthy meals, which wouldn't weigh me down and make me feel kind of sluggish and things like that. So I did have a tendency, well, not a tendency, but I did eat healthier meals, very low fat, not high in carbohydrates or no processed foods or fatty foods like that. I stayed away from. Of course, not 100%, but in general, I stayed away from, which I still stay away from for the most part. I realized, just like no one had my MS, no one would be on the stage in my bikini, in my high heels, the day of the show, with my name. So I was responsible for myself. I had to manage my MS. I had to manage me. I had to manage everything about me, thus managing self. Of course, just because I manage myself doesn't mean that I'm without any challenges. I'd say the next 4 years after Hurricane Katrina, I was quote unquote okay, and the fall of 2009, I guess the fury of MS kind of let loose on me. I had 4 exacerbations within a 4-month period. Took steroids each of those times, 4 steroid treatments in 4 months, and the results of the MRIs were just horrendous. All the active lesions, additional active lesions, etc. So not only did I lost my hearing in my left ear. In 2003, I lost my hearing in my right ear. In 2009, I lost my hearing in my left ear. And in 2009, I lost my vision in my right eye, about 80% of my vision for about a month, my right eye. And I lost my vision, my hearing, my face, my left side of my face was numb. I couldn't feel my tongue, so I was chewing, I couldn't feel my tongue. And also had a severe case of drop foot with my left leg. All of this was weird because everything was now happening on the left side of my body primarily, whereas before it was restricted to my right side. So I thought I was literally falling apart at this point. But what could I do except smile and just try to stay positive. I remember talking to my current neurologist at the time, and we're like, okay, is there something stronger than the current medication that I was on? So I started one of the infusion therapies at that time at a new location with a new doctor. The challenges with this is, at this point, I had been diagnosed with MS for 11 years, 1999 to 1999 to 2000 or so, the winter of 2000. So about 11 years I had been diagnosed, and I started out with a new doctor, and I had to get him up to speed as far as where I had been. We all know where I want to be. That is a slow progression of the disease. So the easiest way for me, being a very methodical thinker, is to give him the information on a flow chart. I presented him with a legal letter, or legal form, with a flow chart, scripting out what medications I had been on, the dates of those, any changes I had made, and kind of make the correlations. Well, you can see the correlation on the flow chart very clearly. Okay, this MRI at this date showed X number of lesions, this many new, this many enhancing, this many gone. So if there was an excessive amount of new lesions, particularly enhancing lesions, I probably changed my medication at that point. I think probably 4 times at total within 11 years. You could also see when I had a flare-up. Usually it was brought about by some major life experience. For instance, Hurricane Katrina, a very stressful situation, and I lost use of, I don't say I lose use of my hands, but I, to this day, I still can't register the feel of softness with my hands. And when I wash my hands, the contact with water still hurts. So that's just something that that occurred. But again, this was a stressful situation, thus a flare-up, or a flare-up with or without documented new lesions per the MRI. Well, I'm most happy to say that after seeing that, my doctor back in spring 2010, I'm still seeing him, and our visits are somewhat short. I don't have any updates for him, which is a good thing. No news is good news. But his recommendation to me is just to continue to live a healthy lifestyle and continue to do what I do. So I think it's wonderful that my doctor basically tells me to go work out as a script. It's funny that when I first met him, I gave him that flow chart with my first 11 years of my journey. And when he looked at it, he asked if he keep it, and I told him certainly. And I suggested he share it with some of his other, or at least the format suggested to maybe some of his other patients, as it'd be really beneficial to get a good synopsis of what they've gone through a given point. Again, he put in my files. Another thing he put in my files was a visit I made in 2005. He's like, "How's it going?" I said, "I think it's going okay." He says, "Anything new?" I said, "Sure." And I showed him pictures of a competition I had done that weekend. Actually, I had done what I said I was going to do, jokingly, back in 1999. Or actually, well, not 99, actually, probably early 2000, maybe 2005, when I first had difficulties with the walking and things like that. My neurologist says, "What about those shows that you compete in?" I said, "Well, I'm practicing. If I have to, I'll do it with a cane." Well, ironically enough, in 2005, in 2012, 7 years later, after I jokingly said that, I did just what I joked about. I got on the stage with my cane. I had a cane matching my suit, my bikini, and actually took first place. It was pretty gratifying. Yeah, very gratifying. Gratifying because I was doing what I said. I was doing what I want, and person responsible for me doing this was myself, because I had managed myself as far as the medications that I take, the diligence that I had throughout my my MS journey, the proactiveness to be my best self advocate, to change medicines with educated info from my doctors, from my own self research. I was responsible for a lot of that, and I give myself credit for that. And I encourage everybody out there to kind of do the same thing, be your own self advocate, and kind of control, as one of my friends said, a co-host, manage your own destiny with the MS. Not 100% controllable, not 100% guaranteed, but if we take the steering wheel and put forth some effort, we can manage it better and get results more favorable that we can accept. I'm not saying to just accept that you have MS. Own it. Own MS. If you have it, if you've been diagnosed with MS, I suggest that you own it, but be your own self-advocate, your best self-advocate, that you can live your life to the fullest extent possible. So that means doing what you want to do, even if it's maybe in an adaptive state. Do those things that you enjoy. Live your life to the fullest. You have MS. It's not a death sentence. It's just a change of life. You define your MS. Do not let MS define you. My MS is fitness. What's yours? Thank you.